My name is Turaleni Asino, and all I'm going to say is welcome to the Canvas discussion panel. And rather than butcher up everybody's name and where they come from and what they do, I'm going to simply introduce Brian Young, who's getting us started over there, and he will lead us in the introduction of all the panelists.
I feel like you could have dragged it out for just 3 more seconds.
I can sing.
Hi, so I'm Brian Young. I'm working on the Canvas pilot with the folks up here. So I would like to welcome you, and I'd like to let you know that we have a presentation that we'll go through. But if you have questions during the presentation, please stop us, because we're here to answer questions. So we can get through this quickly and you can go, but I would rather us talk about some things. I see some folks in the pilot in the room, so if you have something to add, please feel free. We'll start on the end with John, and John can introduce himself, and we'll work our way down.
Sure. Hi, I'm John Butler. I'm an EdTech consultant with the World Campus Learning Design Group.
And I'm Kate Twoey. I'm an instructional production specialist, also with Learning Design and World Campus.
Hi, I'm Andy Fisher. I'm a programmer in Central IT that's been working with Canvas and some Angel things in the past.
Terry O'Hearn, I'm Director of Operations and Teaching and Learning with Technology.
Nida Rehman, I'm a faculty member in the architecture department.
So for folks that don't know, I just wanted to give a quick background on our pilot. This is a spring 2015 pilot, so it's happening this semester. We're about halfway through. We just received our mid-semester surveys back from our faculty and students. So we'll talk a little bit about that later on in the presentation, just so you have a kind of an idea of where we're at. We have 63 instructors, 81 course sections. We had a 2,500 student maximum enrollment, so that means number of students enrolled. So we actually have less than that in the pilot itself, but some students are in more than one section. 16 campuses, 10 colleges. So this isn't just a University Park thing. We actually have more classes from our campus locations than University Park. So we tried to get all the campuses, but we fell short in a couple. But we have pretty broad representation from our campuses, from University Park, from World Campus. So it's pretty far-reaching. So I'll talk for a second about the Lms Requirements Document. This is a document that we worked with World Campus and faculty and staff who work in the LMS. Some of you may have received this document and provided feedback. These are the top 12 things that we're looking for in an LMS. So we came to a consensus that these are things that we need to see in a new LMS. If we were to go with a system, this is very important for us. Some of these are pretty broad in general, but we need to make sure that there are systems in the LMS that allow us to do these things. Group work, collaboration, social presence. So some of these tools are not available currently in Angel, and we're looking for a system that can provide those for us. Any questions on the Big 12? That's what I call them. Nobody else calls them the Big 12. So,
when you have robust content authoring as your first item, I've always thought an LMS was something you use to handle students' registration, content something you create separately and handle within the LMS. So are you saying you can actually edit and update and do all your course prep within Canvas?
So it's something that we were looking into, and I think we found kind of what you're saying, in that the LMSs don't typically have a robust content authoring system, but we were looking for ways to pull content into the LMS that was easy for faculty. So we have a bunch of different systems at Penn State that people use for content creation. So we need to make sure that those systems interact with the LMS instead of making it very difficult to get your content from one place to another. Any other questions? Okay. So for our mid and end semester surveys, so these were some of the ways that we got feedback from our faculty, staff, and students. The mid-semester surveys just came back, like I said. We'll be doing some focus groups. Some of the campuses and World Campus, I mean, there are 7 or 8 classes at some campuses using Canvas. So we'll go to the campus, meet with the instructors, meet with some of the students if possible, and just talk about their experience. Student and faculty interviews, again, while we're on campus, this will be part of the focus group stuff. The reports that are going to come out at the end of the Canvas pilot are from our survey data that we've collected along the pilot. We'll have a technical report, so we need to make sure that the new LMS, whatever it is, fills in the 12 key features that we have from the requirements doc, and also will scale and work for Penn State. Accessibility, also a big concern for us. There'll be 2 separate reports that will be combined in our final report. We've done some training with Canvas before this pilot started for the faculty and staff, so we have a report for that also. And I think the big one, to kind of get feedback from our students and faculty and staff on how Canvas is working so far. So again, we'll go through some of those assessment items in a couple minutes. Any questions before we jump into the technical stuff? Yes?
For the student interviews, will there be different populations of students, meaning that they've had experience with Angel before, or that this is the only LMS that they use?
Yeah, I mean, it varies. So we're talking to some students in IST now who actually have courses in Angel this semester and in Canvas. So they'll have some, I'm sure, some interesting feedback to compare the two. A lot of the students, they're not freshmen, so they've dealt with Angel before, and I think we'll get some good feedback that way, yeah. Thank you. Ready, Andy?
Sure.
Can you yell next slide to me? And I'll...
Next up. No, okay. All right, so I'm the technical side. I'm Andy Fisher. I've been doing a lot of Angel stuff over the years. So I'm going to give you a little bit of a background on what technically we see in Canvas and what some of those things are that you might run into yourself. Okay, so the first item I would talk about the cloud. Okay, you've probably heard the cloud. You may know a little bit what that means, but Canvas is a cloud system, both in architecture and in that it is hosted. Okay, so this is similar to something like Gmail, where it is out there, you use it, you don't really control it, okay, in many aspects of it, but it is a cloud-based system. It's shared between many different users. So our instance of Canvas is very similar to everybody else's instance of Canvas. Okay, so if anyone's ever used Angels anywhere else other than Penn State, their Angel is very different than our Angel. Okay, but that's not the case with Canvas. So there's a couple of things you get with that. So there are current Angel is sort of on the left, where it's your user and they hit our instance of Canvas. In the future, it's going to be a user and they hit Canvas, but that could be the same as a lot of other people's Canvases. They're all run sort of together. They're out there on AWS, Amazon services, and they're all sort of being run together. Updates are being applied to all of them. We're never really behind another customer. You're at the same level as another customer. So there's some good things about that, and there's some drawbacks about that. Canvas has a method of deploying updates to your system every 3 weeks. Okay, they are usually published, I think, the first week of that time period, and then updates deployed 2 weeks later. A lot of that is there's some communications you can sign up for to monitor those, to see what's coming down the road, how you might handle those, what they might be to affect you. We have a little bit of input into sort of some scheduling, but that it's really a vendor-based deployment update cycle. And they happen every 3 weeks. And I have not seen them changed over those 3 weeks. There are pretty frequent changes. They may be small scale every 3 weeks. It might just be a small change you never even notice. It may be a large splash screen when you log in. So there could be different changes there. It's just a different model. Right, we've typically had a lot of input ourselves. We control our own updates to Angel, but with Canvas, they come from an external source. Yeah. Not typically for their update schedules. Their updates, unfortunately, they're based on the West Coast, so it's like a Saturday morning early on the West Coast, but for us, it's like 10 to 12. But users will usually not notice anything. And we have some system monitorings that we've done in the past 3 months. I think we've only one time picked up an update that had some issues, but the rest just really haven't had downtime for their updates. There is no scheduled maintenance window, I guess if you're getting at that as well. There is none for Canvas. Okay, we are also looking at the hosted version of Canvas. There's an open source version as well. I don't think we're pursuing that at this time. Okay, next slide. This one has animations. And I apologize, I'm the tech guy, so everybody always expects the tech guy to come with a wall of text. I actually only put pictures up this time, and I did it on purpose.
I changed it to all text.
Thanks.
They aren't words, but it's all
It took me a long time to take these screenshots. Okay, so yeah, there we go. So what this is, there's a couple different integration methods in Canvas. Canvas is very different kind of company than a lot of other LMS providers. They are started by students. They are started at a university, and they are very in touch with the end user, right? They don't care as much about me as they do you, all right? Not good for me, but good for you, all right? So it makes it a lot easier for you to do technical things in the system. There's a lot of open APIs. So this is a page that's in Canvas that has all of their APIs. And if you have permission to do that functionality in the application, you can use the API to do the same thing, okay? We're actually using the API for some of our own integrations during the pilots. And we're looking at what we can do there as well. All right, next one. Okay, there is what Canvas looks like. There really isn't the feature in Angel where you can put your own style sheets, your own colors, move things around. In Canvas, it's sort of system-wide. We can do it in different account hierarchies, different departments, but we're having a tough time supporting that right now. So we're looking at just coming up with a nice standard system view of what Canvas is going to be like for everyone, everything in the same spot. We have 2 files we can use. We can use a style sheet and a JavaScript file to modify the application. That's it. If I can't do it through JavaScript or styles, it's not moving. All right, next one. This is the best one. I say the best for last. This is LTI. Canvas is exceptional in their LTI support. Okay, if you don't know what LTI is, it's a method, a simple integration method for getting from one application to another. Okay, a lot of people have asked in the past to say, can you put this tool into Angel, or can you put this into the LMS? LTI is the method to do that. We've had it in Angel. It's just not as robust as what it is in Canvas. Okay, can you hit the next slide? I'll talk a little more about LTI. So LTI, this is a module view, I believe, in Canvas. So you can add an LTI tool. This is sort of like if you hit the lessons or content tab in Angel, this is this view. So you can add, just like in Angel, you can add an LTI launch there. Hit it again. This is the left navigation in Canvas, so the main course navigation. In Angel, this would be the tab navigation. You can add items there that launch over to LTI Tools. Okay, so let's say if you want to put one in that goes to Turnitin or Collaborate or VoiceThread or Drupal or wherever you want to have it, you can have that embedded in your navigational structure. Next one. This one's pretty cool. The HTML editor, you can embed HTML links inside of the HTML. Okay, so let's say you are using VoiceThread again, and you want to have text about the content, and then you want to put a link that shows a recorded or a submission, something in the middle. You can just modify it right in the text and dump your LTI tool in there. Now with LTI tools, we are still going to be enforcing the same rules that we have them in Angel. Right? You have to go through an approval process for each one of those. To kick that off, send an email to the help desk, and we'll kick that off and review how to get those in there for you. And a lot of it's legal, a lot of it's policy related, but we'll help you get through that.
Real quick, I mean, you have to have a valid license agreement. It has to be signed by an appropriate person at the university, and it has to go through the appropriate review, purchasing, risk, privacy, and legal.
Yeah.
Yes?
Terry, are there any standard integrations you're looking at, or an integration strategy for common tools that we just might start with, as opposed to having people ask for everything that comes along?
Well, there's a new LMS Academic Transition Steering Committee standing up, and that's some of the things we would like to address with that committee, is to ensure that if we are getting a lot of requests, let's try to identify a common set of tools that would benefit the entire university versus onesies and twosies. Granted, there's going to be probably some unique third-party learning tools that some colleges or departments would like to use anyway, but again, we'd like to take the advantage of economy of scale. If there's broad interest in an application or similar applications, let's select one.
And I think we're starting out with everything that we already have in Angel, we want to convert over as well. So we have a couple that are active in Angel, and we're already pushing for those. And then we're also getting a lot of requests for systems that are already at Penn State, like Box, right? That's already here, and we're already getting some requests for that. Now, also, if you wanted to move up the timeline, send a request in. So if we have a system out there at Penn State and no one requests an Lti integration, we're probably not going to really look at it too much unless we get requests for it. Yeah.
Forgive me, my voice is terrible. It says my badges on there. Are you going to address how this will handle badges later?
There's actually an Lti tool in Canvas for badging. It looks pretty cool. I don't think we've had Kyle or anybody else look at it yet. I'm not even sure if it's
Well, there's a
enabled by
badging
default.
initiative at the university. Definitely something that we can definitely address in the future
Yeah.
with this platform.
I don't think we've done it in the pilot, though.
No, nothing in the pilot.
Yeah.
Are free tools like the ones that we saw on the screenshot that students didn't know those sorts of things already available?
Well, there's different aspects of each one of those. So, yes, you can do like you're doing Angel right now, put a YouTube video in. Now, there's also screen recording capture things. This is actually an Angel, too, and Canvas has it, where you can record, have students record short videos of themselves and post it. Depending on what those do, we look at them individually and to see whether we can use them or not, right? If there's usually a click-through, we're not allowed to use click-throughs at Penn State.
Well, unless they're vetted.
Unless they're vetted, right. So in order to upload a video to YouTube, you have to have an account. In order to get that account, you have to click a button to accept the terms of use, terms of service. And to do that, we've typically centrally managed those. So we don't have to have our users read a contract on their own and then decide, are they going to sell my information? So typically a lot of those things are sort of still centrally maintained, and that really doesn't, it's not really dependent on the LMS, it's more of the decision on how to handle those types of requests.
Privacy Risk Office is setting up a process for users to actually vet a click-through agreement with their office. And actually, they're also looking at developing a whitelist, if you will, of already pre-approved click-through agreements that users at the university can use.
Yeah. And from ease of use of getting a Lti tool integrated, the easiest ones at Penn State are the ones that we have a contract with and we run locally, right? To the, hey, it's free on the web, right? Because free on the web is not free on the web. Those are usually the harder ones to get through because there's something in their contract or term of use that sometimes becomes a pain point. Yeah.
I was just wondering, would it be something to consider for a list of those who don't get approved? And the reason I'm asking that is we have faculty who teach and use Blackboard, and it's integrated with Pearson's My Mastering, My IT Lab, and My Math Lab, and it brings over the student data. It's not manual. I know that would transfer student data, which is why it wouldn't be probably approved. But instead of me saying that, or potentially saying that in the future, it'd be nice to have.
That's a great suggestion. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. We have an internal list of things that people have asked for in Lti tools. I think it's around 30, and we're trying to go through each one of those.
Piazza is a popular one, and that has not been approved. It's a free app, but we're not allowed to use it and integrate it. Piazza, it's a Q&A discussion forum type application.
What was that again?
Piazza, we attempted to get that integrated with Angel, but due to the licensing arrangements, it's not acceptable to the university, so we're not allowed to use it.
Terry?
Yes.
I think just following up on what you said, I mean, can we have a list of what wasn't approved and some rationale, because when faculty want to use something, rather than just saying, can't do it, here's why, here's the list of things that keeps you from being inundated with requests trying to say no. I mean, that little list might just alleviate a lot of headaches from our side and your side.
Oh, yeah, it's a great suggestion. I think I'll definitely initiate a conversation with the Privacy Risk Office because they've started this initiative to actually review click-through agreements. We'll talk about a blacklist as well as a whitelist.
Both would be really useful.
Yep. Great suggestion.
Okay, next one. I am all done. So now let's move on to the course design. Only 3 slides, I promised.
So some of the things that John Butler and I and the rest of our team have been focusing on is evaluating course design and course development, usability, accessibility, those types of things. So Ooh, you're good. You felt it?
I felt it, yeah.
So from a very, very, very high level perspective, some of the benefits that Canvas provides that we thought were worth noting. The first one, as Andy showed you the slide of the modules. So Canvas uses modules, and this provides multiple options for organizing and delivering the content. And the modules just contain any of the various different pieces within Canvas. So your activities, your content, quizzes, that sort of thing. Canvas also does provide all of the standard tools necessary for assessing students. And this is worth noting because we have looked at systems in the past where you just sort of take for granted that you assume it will have all of those tools, and then you realize, oh, actually you can't do surveys, and you just sort of didn't think it was worth asking. So it does have all of those tools. We have assignments, discussion forums, quizzes, surveys, that kind of thing. And those provide sufficient features and efficiencies for both the students and the faculty. Canvas also has a built-in tool for importing Angel exports. So this is something we are currently trying to identify, and if we do adopt Canvas, we will have resources available for everyone that will outline exactly what does come over, where does it go, does the name change, what kinds of settings drop, that kind of thing. But this is a tool that Canvas has built in there to bring in these Angel packages. We'll also provide some information around what you should tweak or clean up in your Angel course before you export it. And
so you started to get a look into what Canvas looks like whenever Andy had the dashboard up there, but you can see on that home page that there was like a what's coming up, what's due, recent feedback type thing. So there's a lot of good notifications and dashboards for the students that they can get specific information when it becomes available to them. And there's actually a really extensive grid of the different types of notifications, and they can actually choose how often they receive those notifications, what method they receive those by. It's really interesting and really cool to see all of the different things they can do with that. We talked a little bit about the third-party Lti integrations, and there's a lot of new things or different applications for those that we might want to look more at. I think there's a lot of opportunity there with those. We did want to highlight that with accessibility, there are some very good things that they do. One being defining the regions in the page for people who are using screen readers. So this is an easy way for them to kind of skip around and find different pieces of content without having to kind of go through the full flow of an entire page. And the mobile app. So they have a dedicated mobile app for this that is available on a bunch of devices. And I have a quote here from our learning design mobile team that says, "This is the best LMS app that the team has seen so far." Next slide. So on the flip side of that, we wanted to kind of give you the high-level things that we thought you would want to hear about the challenges or concerns that we have. So the first on here being, there are some things we have some concerns about very specifically in Canvas in relation to accessibility. Some of those things would be how they approach math content, some of the things with the video player. For more kind of specifics on that, I would defer to the work that will be done through Christian's group, and we are actively pursuing conversations with them to figure out how we can address some of these things. And even in the time up to this talk right now, some of those have actually been addressed.
in addition to that, we have identified some semester-to-semester population scalability concerns in terms of workload. So some of those concerns include the ability to populate from one to many instead of having to do one course section at a time. That also includes all of the pieces of each course coming over and not having to recreate something in your new course space. We are addressing some of those concerns already with the possible use of some API integrations, so we're already on the way to fix some of those. And there is the possibility of also using Canvas Commons, which is their new learning object repository, which is still in beta. It was just released in the fall to certain organizations. We just got access to it maybe 2 weeks ago, and so we're starting to look at the learning object repository. Like I said, it's called Commons, to see if that would also help with some of the scalability concerns in the future. In addition to that, as Brian mentioned earlier, the LMS requirements, what'd you call them? Not the 12 guys, the 12?
Big
Big
12.
12.
The 12 guys.
I like the 12 guys.
The 5 guys, 12 guys, yeah.
There are a couple of the guys that we want to make sure that Canvas addresses all of those requirements. The overall social presence in Canvas, when you compare it to Angel, it is better, but according to our 12 guys, there could be some improvements in that area. So some of those include the ability to spontaneously chat online with other people who are in the course, or even just the ability to see who's online at that moment and then be able to chat with them. So that's some of the things that we're looking at that is not currently meeting the requirements. Yes?
What are the ways that it is better than Angel with regard to the interaction?
Some of it is the notifications that John was just talking about. In general, you have a better sense of what's going on in your course, and you know what's going on, what's happened, what do you have to do, what's been graded. The notifications in general are better because you can choose what you want to be notified about. So I actually, when we first got in, I selected Tell Me Everything, and I get bombarded all the time, but it's actually kind of great. I'm like, this person just did this, and they did that, and they did this. So you just have a better overall sense of what's happening in your course, and you don't have to be logged into the course to know what's going on.
There's push notifications, so you can get like texts that say, hey, this just got graded. Right? There's a lot of different methods there. It's more modern.
So on the student side of things, could they get push notifications too?
Yes, yeah, exactly. They can get reminders of when things are due. You would get a notification if you chose it, that your instructor just graded something, so it's,
Oh, that's helpful.
yes, it is. Some of the, Kristen.
How can students get notified? Like, can they get text messages?
Email notifications.
Yeah. Yeah, I think they even have a Yo integration. Have you ever heard of Yo? It's a new social media tool that all it does is just say Yo. So. Doesn't tell you anything else other than Yo, so you can have Canvas tell you Yo.
The guy's a millionaire, by the way.
Yeah.
That one's really helpful.
Yeah.
We also just want to make sure that all of the settings, the functionality that we are used to, even though we don't want to compare it exactly with Angel, but we're used to a lot of the functionality that Angel provides. We've built certain assignments and activities around that functionality. So now we need to make sure that we can at least do the same type of thing in the system, even if we have to look at it from a different perspective. So certain settings, like discussion forum settings, Angel's pretty robust in terms of, oh, sorry, you don't like robust. It's extensive in terms of you have fishbowl, you have hot seat, you have all of those different things. So there are some workarounds that you can provide some of those types of activities in Canvas. We want to make sure that if you create that, though, that it doesn't then create a scalability concern to be able to populate that to all of your semesters. So we're looking at all of that kind of thing.
Is there any API level access if a faculty member wants to do either learning analytics or kind of workflow management via a program that they would write? Is there any way to look into it in that way?
So we're working on some methods to get more of the analytical, historical log information back so you can work on it. There aren't any great APIs for that to say, hey, what did this student do? And they're one way. You can't. They do have an XAPI connector, and I know they've been working on some of the Caliper stuff about pushing events back into Canvas. So if you are using an external tool, we're working with them. And there's a separate project as well where we're doing a proof of concept using Caliper and an external tool to push analytical data back to Canvas. So let's say you are in Piazza, right, and you push the data back to Canvas, and it shows page views and some of the activity that they did. So some of that we're working on, and we're also working on the side of what to do with the data, how we can get some of that historical information back out of it.
Real quick, Caliper is an IMS standard being developed, IMS Global Learning Consortium, in regard to passing the type of information in regard to analytics engines. Also, I guess I'm going to mention it, Unison has an initiative. Actually, they're working on to actually get real-time data out of the LMS. So they're starting a task force to actually have that conversation.
If I were an instructor or a faculty person or a designer, and I wanted to design a very media-rich course with a lot of high-definition video, is there a limitation to the amount of content that I could park on there that actually lives in the Canvas system and not offline, like off-site at YouTube or something like that. I think, I've been using Canvas for, I don't know, 8 or so years, and I get 500 megabytes. Sometimes that's exceeded because a student, sometimes I require students to kick back video assignments that they built that they're to themselves, and they have to park it there, and I'm frequently exceeding 500 megs. Do you see that as a problem, or do you set up a shelf as far as how big how much space a instructor?
Well, I mean, according to the agreement, just our storage calculations based upon 500 meg per FTE. However, money buys everything, so we need to expand storage capacity. I don't think it's a problem. It comes down to performance and scalability of the course in regard to large enrollments and large storage items. But Andy, do you know?
Yeah, we are still using the 500 megabyte limit, but in the pilot, we just haven't had anybody hit that. We want to see what happens. And I also think Canvas is much more powerful in the options of, do you really need everything in Canvas? Right, so we can hopefully have some tools that are better integrated to that. The content may be outside of Canvas, but no one ever knows. And I think that's part of it. And the internal player, I think, is Kaltura, which...
Yeah, the internal player is not so accessible. You probably know that. It's not so great.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Trying to, insert a VTT file, it doesn't make it plain.
Yeah. And
so most accessible stuff is very easier to accommodate, YouTube.
Mm-hmm.
But then it doesn't congest your servers at the college or at your faculty.
Right.
They do have a method for getting specific caption file types into the player and to display within the player. That there's been some conversation fairly recently about several different types of players that are all having kind of the same challenges in terms of accessibility. So it's something we'll be talking about in the conversations we have.
Possibly something like the box integration might work well too. If it's just storing some static files, we don't really need the player as much and some of the other things. I'm not sure if Box has its own player or not. But there's other options as well, I think, and we're looking at a lot of those, like Collaborate. We're looking at integrations there.
That's a Blackboard meeting virtual tool.
Connect.
Adobe Connect.
Yeah.
We're looking at an Lti integration with Canvas to see how that works. Of course, out of the box, Instructure provides a big blue button, but that's an incomplete solution because contractually they only provide 2 weeks worth of actually holding the files, and then they're deleted. The institutions have to actually enter into a separate agreement with the vendor, Big Blue Button, to actually host the content longer. So we feel that's not a complete solution. So won't probably pursue that.
Also, in my experience, staying on this, I've noticed that you can offsite a lot of course content. So what if an instructor just took everything and put it on Google, and it was like completely offsite and it wasn't on any of the college or university's servers? How do you address that? Is there the rules behind like what an instructor, faculty person can do in terms of parking everything in one place versus another?
Well, I mean, that's being done today, regardless of whether it's Angel or Canvas. Of course, the registrar would like to know about those types of things because of he owns FERPA, but yes, that is a concern. I mean, and basically we're on our own integrity to do the right thing, so it's hard to control. And it comes down to faculty development and education of what you can and cannot do with student data.
Well, just, for ownership, if I own, like as an instructor, as a faculty person, this would be all of my course materials, and now you don't get it. I just didn't know if Canvas had anything that would prevent something like that from happening.
Should we be looking at your courses?
I've seen it done, and I have,
Yeah.
question marks written already as far as ownership.
We are looking at audit methods through the API to determine where content where content residing and what's being done. So we are looking at that. So it's definitely a concern.
I'm a world I have no control over.
Yeah.
But that's a valid question, yeah. I mean, instructors can put links in Angel today and they put links in Canvas. It takes them to wherever. I mean, valid concern and question.
So feedback, as Brian mentioned, we have already released and received back the mid-semester survey. This went out to the students and the piloting faculty. And as you can see, this is from the student responses. We had 398 students fill out the mid-semester survey. I don't have to read through everything, but 69% agree or strongly agree that it would be a sufficient replacement for Angel. They feel that it was easy to use, reliable and stable, relatively easy to learn. So that was the student feedback. We do have some specific quotes from the students. I love Canvas so much. It is perfect, beautiful, simple, and so effective. It took me seconds to learn and was not confusing at all. It is perfect in how I envision heaven.
Which may be a stretch, but I'm happy they're happy. So, yes.
Canvas is hard to navigate. I still have to click on a few buttons before I find what I'm looking for. Another student says, my experience has been more interactive while using Canvas. It's what an online course environment should be. Another student says, I'm familiar with Angel and it works. It's simpler. Canvas had some bugs and I had some trouble seeing my grades updated. So we've obviously had a mix of results. Another student says, I would say Canvas is what I call the technology I would expect from this school. Using both Angel and Canvas at my first year at Penn State, Angel is good while it just seems dated, and the lack of mobile app hurts the online user. That's student response.
And so here's the results from the faculty feedback. Again, I'm not going to read the numbers out to you. You can kind of see them there. Fairly high in that regard. So we move to the quotes. So we have, I hope that we adopt this. For my needs, Canvas works substantially better than Angel. In fact, I tried to use some similar course setups in Angel, and I found it to be challenging. Sadly, I wasn't blown away by Canvas. Part of this, I think, was because of the limited rollout. I was initially excited by the system because of the many features that were turned off for this pilot. I really enjoy the ease of use of Canvas. I realize that it may not have all of the features that Angel has, but it's so easy to use and intuitive. Also, a lot of these quotes are really kind of touting the speed grader, which is kind of an in-system editing and grading of papers and different types of documents. The navigation can be a bit tricky at times, but I think that it's mostly just a familiarity issue. Canvas has been an absolute joy to use, and it has made my life as an instructor so much more manageable and efficient. So.
And I just wanted to add that from the faculty, we had 37 out of 59, so 62% of the faculty responded to the mid-course survey. Yes, Kristen.
Can you say more about the speed grader? Because when I saw a demo of Canvas at a conference, that was something I was super impressed by for the faculty interaction with the tool. Because it's sometimes tedious for faculty to download all of the documents, like if they're submitting papers, they download 60 papers, have to rename them, grade them, rename them again, upload them one by one to Angel.
Actually, Ravi, are you still? I don't mean to put you on the spot, but I know we just talked about this the other day. He has a course in the pilot, and he was talking about how much he loved it.
So, yeah, I mean, that process is really difficult in Angel. So I'm teaching a math course, and it's actually really changed the way that I grade. There's something called Croc Docs. So what I can do is go in, mute the assignment, and everything is in line within the system. Then I can just start going through let's say number one. I'll grade each student's number one. I'll have the rubric. I'm able to put feedback within the document itself. Okay, once I'm done with all of them, then I just say, I can actually put comments there. And then when I unmute it, then all my students know how they did. And of course, I still have, a solution document that I put in there. But what I found going from assessment to assessment, my students did much better because I'll put some review questions within it. And it's just so much better in terms of getting feedback to students. And then also the process. The process is better. So I just feel like it's more consistent and I get a lot more feedback to my students.
Oh, okay. And that's what I saw on the demo. Is instead of downloading the paper, you just click on it, open it, grade in it, swipe it to the next student. Exactly.
Yeah.
I was,
It's so much better. It's amazing.
Thank you, Robbie.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Glenn?
I would agree. In the Department of Statistics, where you have papers, public, and math, where you literally have to handwrite things, I can't download it to just Word. It has to actually go to a printed copy to get that kind of feedback. So now it's, we typically would have then, well, on problem one you did this. The feedback is just not as meaningful as it is. So I would imagine in another field, areas where you have pictures, you want to annotate those. You don't have to it would just make it so much easier to
to make that feedback meaningful and more convenient.
And you can do,
And we all know what the impact that feedback has, how important it is to instruction.
you can do audio and video feedback as well, isn't that
Yes.
correct? So even if you don't feel like writing, you can, and then it creates that relationship. Mhm.
So we have just a couple minutes left, so I want to make sure that we have some time for our faculty member on the panel to talk a little bit about her experience too. So.
Okay, thank you, Brian. I think I'm going to just pick up on some of these things as well from my perspective. But let me just quickly take a couple seconds just to talk about the course itself, because I'm sure it's very different from some of the other courses. It's called Architecture 100. It's a gen ed course. It's been offered for a number of years. My colleague Denise Costanzo set it up. She's an architecture historian. And I've been working with it for a few years, so I've really got the kind of hang of the Angel setup that she did. And as Terry said earlier, because the course was set up in Angel using a lot of the Angel's functionality, there's been some hiccups along the way, but it certainly has been very interesting to sort of translate over to Canvas. The course has its own website, so that's what you're seeing up here. This is not in Canvas, but it links to Canvas. And then the course is set up with 3 units, so the course is divided into 3 units. But let me say we have 150 students typically, and I think about maybe 50 of those might be World Campus or distance students, other campuses as well, and the rest are here in UP. But the course is entirely conducted online, my version of it. So we have 3 units, and each unit has, I think, 4 different assignments, and then there's a couple of add-on assignments at the end. So there's a whole ton of different ways we assess the students, ranging from quizzes, exams, discussion forums, and some reading assignments, which are sort of essay-type questions, which are a little writing heavy, but there's no longer papers. So each unit has each of these types of assignments, and you can see a little bit in the course main website itself that you can sort of navigate the course here in terms of the content. This is where all the lectures are, etc. But because the navigation is happening in Canvas, well, this is what you see when you when a student would log in. This is sort of the main page on the Canvas side. Here is how, so I'm obviously using the modules to have students navigate the course, and this is what they would see. So this is exactly the same structure as what you have on the course website, except that it also includes, besides links to all the lectures, it includes all the assignments, all the discussion forums. Yeah, that's it. Here is what, I just wanted to show you what for example, the reading activity looks like. We can go to the next slide, I'll come back to that. So what I want to quickly do is maybe talk about some of, from a comparative perspective, just using Angel, how some of these, especially some of the assignments have fared, and then how sort of the experience is either positive or negative in Canvas. So if we go to the next slide, for example, as somebody who's in a visual field or has sort of, I think one of the first things, obviously, that Canvas does much better is the interface, and the kind of just mobility and navigation around it is far more intuitive, simpler, and I think I would say that for the setup side as well. I think it was generally easy to set things up. This is the sort of the difference between the two in terms of, I was using lessons in Angel, and here in the modules, when all of the tabs are closed, that's what you see. So it's you can compare. It sort of compares pretty easily. When you go to the next one, when you actually open it, everything in Angel was in folders, which is annoying because you have to open up folders, but at the same time, you get a sort of cleaner organization, and you can kind of see the organizational structure better. Whereas in modules, because there's no submodules, once you open a unit, you get all of this stuff. So this is my entire, whatever, unit 2. So this is a little bit, I think, visually where things might be able to improve, is if I could close down things that I've already done, for example. So, of course, I'm using the tabs as a way to kind of make those distinctions, but that's something where I think visually this does a little better, even though not clicking in folders.
Would you just not want to change the structure so you had more like by week instead then?
Oh, in the units
When you
themselves.
switch to Canvas, would you just not prefer it to be more by week then?
That's true, except then I would have 15. Well, some things also don't fall into weeks. I don't know. Obviously that's something I could think about in the transition when we imported the course. It imported really well, but it imported right into the modules, into the units translate to
That's
units.
all happened automatically with an import, so any different structure you would have to
Certainly, yeah.
spend a lot of time
You're
doing.
right. Which is not something I'm averse to doing. But that's just one thing. Just simply being able to shut down some of those sub-modules, basically, would be interesting. If we go to the next slide, here is sort of, I think, the place where I'm having the biggest sort of hiccup, I would say. And I just heard from someone that they can do this, so maybe I'm going to just chat with them later. So in our reading assignment, students read a text, and then they're given a set of 6 questions. Those 6 questions are pulled from a larger bank of 18 questions or so, so they're shuffled through to students. And because we're grading 150 students, we have to get through a lot of these small essay questions, and you can kind of see the length of those over there. In SpeedGrader, what I'm not able to do is do the grade by question that Angel allowed me to do. So check everyone's, question 1. And I've been fighting, and I think Brian knows, I've been sort of searching through, ways to work around that. So that's added a little bit of time to my grading. Some time to my, some extra time there. So I think there's 1 or 2 more. There's been a few moments where I've had to do workarounds, so move back to Angel, because Angel is still linked with my students. So if I have to make up, some makeup quizzes, which may not have all of the same questions, it might, it's just a partial quiz or something. I think just in terms of ease of, or just not knowing how to do things in Canvas, I've just kind of made quick workarounds in Angel and had the students go back to Angel to do a few quick things.
And I think our goal is, if Canvas becomes the LMS at Penn State, that we won't need to do workarounds.
Right.
But for the pilot, it's sort of, there's some things that would have taken more time than we had in the pilot to do some of those fixes. So I think going forward, if this is what we do, we won't have to figure out.
Plus, I imagine that a lot of this is, questions in terms of my own familiarity with sort of how to move around certain things. And I know, I've had the experience moving around them in Canvas, or in Angel. So I expect that some of the faculty might be feeling similar.
Can I ask a question? In Canvas, can you upload HTML files, or like there's an Angel, you can paste in HTML questions?
Mm-hmm.
You can do the same thing, populate them.
Are you talking about for quizzes or for content or for everything?
For assessments, you can go to the copy and paste option and just paste in all the questions, answer some feedback and stuff.
Oh, sure. Question by question.
You'd have to do it question by question.
Mm-hmm.
You can't do it all at once.
Are you talking about when you take a Word doc that's formatted a certain way and you're able to upload it? Literally
I write
paste.
MathJax things in HTML and just copy the whole assessment in.
I heard
So one of the kind of active conversations we're going to want to have with them is around the work with MathML and how they approach the math content. So right now, math equations in Canvas are outputted as images with alt text that is LaTeX, which that's really important for the construction of those equations, but whenever someone is, say, hitting those on a screen reader, they probably, if they're not a math major, going to want to learn LaTeX to determine what the equation is saying. And MathJax right now would have to be, and I think that would be a conversation we would want to have with one of these two here, is that would be an implementation that would have to happen kind of outside of that, because the HTML editors within Page will kind of strip out certain types of code, specifically things like script calls.
We're way out of time, guys. So we'll be around. If you have any questions, please feel free to stop one of us. We'll have a demo table outside in the afternoon also. So if you want to check out Canvas, stop by. We're happy to help.